product of Jim Dunn. I couldn't even raise my hand in class. I could never do anything. Jim could find a seed in every single one of us, and now I can talk in front of 1,000 physicians. I can do anything when it comes to something of the passion of undoing racism. And when it's the passion of undoing racism, we think of Jim Dunn, don't we? All right. I'm supposed to talk about what has happened in his dream since he left Antioch. But first I want to say I really commend those who recognize the importance of honoring those that have gone before us and made the path available to each one of us to be sitting in this room. We have to hold their names up constantly, or we'll think it just happened and we can sit back down. And that was the theme of Jim Dunn. You have to understand, if we, as a nation, learn the history of this country as it was, we could undo anything. But they continue to lop off such huge pieces of history, we cannot undo anything, and we become helpless in it. We all need to study history. That was definitely the message of Jim Dunn. I think it is absolutely amazing that the universe decided to bring Jim Dunn and Bill Chappelle together in this spot on the earth. Isn't it amazing that that happened? It is also amazing that each one of us that knew them, are honored to know them, have been honored to know them, that we came into their life, because not one person that knew them is not changed and stronger for that relationship with them. When you sat in the presence of Bill Chappelle by yourself, there was nobody else in the world that was more important than you. When you sat in the presence of Jim Dunn, there was nobody in the world more important than you. And you took that importance that they bestowed upon you, and you made it into something. And each one of us made it into something. I look out across this room, and I see all of us that are continuing to do the work that is so powerfully started by two powerful men that we are so blessed to have been in their lives. It was interesting when Mike says there were all these different parts of Jim, and a lot of people only saw certain parts of Jim Dunn. But there was a thread that was in Jim Dunn into the very center core of him that spread out, that now has spread out not only across every one of the states in the United States, but it has spread out across the world. I want you to believe that. That Jim Dunn's mother died when he was 4 years old, and he went to live with his great aunt with his brother and two sisters. His father was one of the most brilliant men that Urbana, Ohio had ever seen. If it had not been for racism, he would have been amazing. With no doubt that he would have been a very powerful man in this country. But because of racism, he was held down. As a matter of fact, he turned into an alcoholic and was kind of kept away from the kids. And he loved Jim's mothers dearly, and he just was so grieving that that happened. But what Jim's father did is that he would come into Jim's room late at night when everybody was asleep in the house, and he would sit with Jim, whispering, "Tears to my eyes," and would teach him the history of African people that did not start from slavery, but started before slavery, from the civilizations that they were stolen from and brought over here and forced to work with no pay. That created a seed in Jim that history was the most important thing that we could teach, and that you had to undo racism if you were going to be effective in anything that you ever did. You had to undo racism. Jim started the People's Institute. Is the organization that grew out of Human as one of our founding parenting organizations. The other organization was SOC, the Southern Organizing Committee for Social and Economic Justice. Ann Braden, C.T. Vivian, Reverend Shuttlesworth, a lot of people that you've heard of. He started it knowing that if we were going to continue the civil rights movement, that we had to continue the movement, that it was the movement that was most important. And to do that, the people had to understand the importance of undoing racism, the importance of history, and the importance of culture. So he didn't want to start an institute per se, but what he thought was important, that we needed to train thousands and thousands of community organizers. And that's what the Institute is doing today, training thousands and thousands of community organizers. Bill and Jim said that if we were going to do this, we had to work with white people. They were shunned by many people in this country, but they knew the importance of working with white people. I will say that the discourse on racism has changed in the United States because of The first class that started there, then the People's Institute that is now teaching all over the country. She has to get up and show me 1 minute because she knows I'm ignoring her. But that discourse of change, that we are now beginning to understand what racism is to a very different level than we ever understood it before. As I say, now we have offices in 5 different states of the Union. We've got an office in Puerto Rico. That we have 36 trainers that go out across the country. That we are no longer throwing rocks at those institutions. We are now inside institutions. And we are seeing the very face of racism, which comes out through disparities. We're seeing it change. Whereas this country pulled out black children from their families in CPS 5 to 10 times as much as white families, and yet those families were no more neglectful or abusive. That is now changing because we are training those institutions to look at it differently. The outcomes for black children in this country are different because of the vision of Jim Dunn. That the People's Institute now goes all over the world. We go to South Africa all the time. We go to Northern Ireland, Japan, South and Central America. I could go on and on. So a dream, as we heard say, live that dream. That dream can be something that is real. Jim and Bill planted many, many seeds around this country. And while you can count the number of seeds in an apple, you can never count the number of apples in the seed. I mean, the number of apples in a seed. You can never count the number, and that's who we are. We are the seeds from Jim and Bill. God bless you all, and God bless Jim and Bill.